Within 3 minutes and 34 seconds, Khamzat Chimaev immediately, unquestionably, has justified all of the hype around him since he started his UFC career. Because I have to be honest, I picked Robert Whittaker to beat him, and I've also been a big critic of the hype surrounding Khamzat Chimaev. Not him as a fighter, but I was really befuddled by the amount of people who said every single contender is going to duck this guy and nobody's going to beat him. He's going to be champion whenever he wants, no matter who holds the belt, etc, etc. And I felt Robert Whittaker was one of the toughest matchups for him in all of the UFC. And boy was I wrong. Nobody has ever done that to Robert Whittaker. And Chimaev looks so unbelievably impressive. I don't know if anybody at middleweight is going to be favoured to beat this guy. I don't know if I'll favour anybody to beat him. Now I'll get on to how he matches up against the rest of the top 5 in a second. But what was so impressive about this fight is that Robert Whittaker was defending very well. Because when Chimaev took down Kamaru Usman in his most recent fight before this one, and he had his back for the majority of round 1, he had his hooks in a lot easier than he did against Robert Whittaker. Whittaker was scrambling constantly. He was able to prevent Chimaev from being able to settle in 100% to a position where he could either go for a submission or deliver punishment and put a triangle around his body, etc. Chimaev was forced to work way more than he has really in any fight in his career, aside from the Gilbert Burns fight. Gilbert Burns really made Chimaev work throughout that fight. And I'll get on to how Gilbert Burns was able to push Chimaev the way he did, whereas Robert Whittaker couldn't even survive a round in a second. But Chimaev had to work. He had one of the best defensive wrestlers in all of the middleweight division in front of him, a guy who was able to stop the submission attempts and the takedowns of Jacare Souza, a guy who was able to reverse the takedowns of Yoel Romero back when Romero was at his best in the UFC, and he was able to do that with a burnt out knee in the first fight Whittaker did, and Chimaev just dominated him on the ground and submitted him. The way Chimaev was able to transition constantly, adjust to Whittaker's adjustments, and make him work and make him pay, and was never giving this guy any time to breathe, was one of the most impressive things I think I've seen all year. And going forward, I'm not sure who's going to beat Khamzat Chimaev, because let's be real, if he faces Sean Strickland, does Sean Strickland have anything that Whittaker doesn't have when it comes to being able to keep him at bay and prevent the takedowns? Strickland has shown a good ability to get up, but his takedown defense I don't think is any better than Robert Whittaker's, and Strickland is not as fast, he's not as crisp, he's not as athletically gifted as Whittaker, and Sean Strickland doesn't have the power of Robert Whittaker. Is he going to be able to keep Chimaev at bay with his jabs and teep kicks to prevent him from getting taken down? I highly doubt it. And when Sean Strickland talks about Khamzat Chimaev, it does seem like he is hiding some potential stories of him maybe getting bested in the gym. As for Dricus du Plessis, I mean, DDP is just a different guy altogether. The way this guy is so uncoordinated, he's so messy, he looks like a guy who doesn't belong at the highest level of fighting, but he just finds a way to win, and he's so unbelievably strong. But this is a guy, DDP, who got taken down, and I can't believe I'm saying this, by a washed up, well past his best Derek Brunson. He got taken down, I think twice. He got reversed multiple times in that fight. I know that was single nostril DDP, but even with better cardio, he's not going to have better endurance than Khamzat Chimaev does in the first round. I mean, Khamzat Chimaev may be the most devastating first round fighter in MMA history. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure who's going to win that fight, but based on what I just saw, as somebody, again, who has been a big critic of Khamzat Chimaev over the years, I think I may have to favour him to win. And as for these other guys, Kyle Baraujo, Nastina Mavov, the new generation of middleweights, I don't know if these guys have the wrestling defense to beat a guy like Chimaev. And another reason why I felt Whittaker was always one of the toughest matchups is because Whittaker is one of the most athletically gifted fighters in the middleweight division. Also, he uses movement very well. He's one of the most perfect fighters in terms of technique in the entire sport. Kyle Baraujo and Nastina Mavov are good fundamentally, but they don't have the speed and the athleticism overall of Robert Whittaker when it comes to foot speed and getting out of the way of Chimaev's takedowns. So I don't know if they're going to be able to prevent the takedowns, first of all, and if they do get taken down, are they going to have the defense that Whittaker had? I certainly don't think so. And another thing, Khamzat Chimaev just looks so fresh at middleweight. Against Gilbert Burns, there are all kinds of reasons why he may have looked as vulnerable as he did. First of all, Gilbert Burns is an excellent fighter, and I do feel that Chimaev may not have been so gung-ho about the takedowns in that fight. I think he approached the fight with the arrogance of thinking, I can stand with this guy, he can hit me with his best shot and it won't even bother me. That was the old Khamzat Chimaev, the guy who would always get on the microphone and say, I kill everybody! And this week we saw a different guy. We saw humble Khamzat Chimaev. He was turning up to the press conference very lackluster by his standards, very lackadaisical, wearing glasses and saying, you know, I've matured, brother. I'm going to smash these guys, but I respect them all. And Khamzat Chimaev looks like he may have learned a lot from that Gilbert Burns fight, and he's done what everybody who wants to be a high-level fighter needs to do, and that is mature. He's developed, he's progressed, he's adjusted throughout his career. So again, Khamzat Chimaev, after some disappointing years since maybe having the greatest hype of any fighter in the history of the sport, has finally lived up to it. And I'll be doing other videos on where the other fighters go from here, particularly Robert Whittaker, but the night belongs to Khamzat Chimaev. Let me know what you guys think about Khamzat Chimaev justifying all the hype within less than a round. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more, guys. Catch you later.